This tutorial is for a Dream in a Bottle photo comp. A photo comp is where you take a whole bunch of different images and you cut them out and manipulate them to look like they belong in another photograph. What you're seeing right now is what the end product should look like for your Dream in a Bottle. The first step that we're going to do is open up a new canvas. So we're going to go File and New. And for this tutorial, we're measuring in pixels, so make sure you're on pixels. And we want 700 pixels wide by 1,000 pixels high. And we're going to keep the resolution at 72. So here we have our canvas, and the first thing that we're going to bring in is the sky. So you're going to go down to your tutorial source files, and you're going to find the image of the sky, and you're going to click and drag it over to your canvas. Go ahead and press Shift and increase the size, and let it fill the canvas, and then hit Enter. The next thing that we'll add to our sky is a rainbow. We need a new layer first though, so I'm going to come right down here to my little post-it pad right down here in the corner, and I'm going to click on that to get a new layer. Then I'm going to go to my brush, which is right here, or if I just press B on my keyboard, that will get me there too. Once I press brush, I'm going to go right up here and pick the brush that I want. You do want a fuzzy brush, is what I call them, because the outside is kind of fuzzy. And I'm going to come over here, and that's pretty small, so we want it to be about that big. Now, the thing to keep in mind with these photo comps is that everybody's doesn't have to look exactly the same. My rainbow looks pitiful compared to the example that I'm going off of. I can't do a good arch rainbow to save my life. That's not that important. Just get it as close as you can, and if you want to change the color of the cars, that's perfectly fine. But let's go ahead and put the rainbow on there. I'm going to start with a yellow color. So I get my yellow, and then I'm just going to click and drag it over. Okay? The colors don't really matter. You can do whatever colors you would like. And you don't necessarily need a full rainbow. I'm going to do three colors here. When you're done with your colors, you're going to come right over here to what's called the layer blending modes. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to pick vivid light, so you can kind of see the clouds behind there. Next, I'll change the layer's opacity. If I go right over here on the layers palette, I'm going to change it to about 50%. So you just have kind of a little see-through rainbow there. Now next, I'm going to bring the actual bottle in. So we'll go to our tutorial source files and get the one that's the Photoshop document and bring that over, because I've already cut that out for you. So we're going to click and drag. And make it take up about that much room. Bring it down to the bottom. There we go. And then you just hit Enter to place that. Next, we'll find our waterfall from our source files. So we'll click and we drag. And the waterfall's pretty small, so it might be a little bit blurry, but it'll be okay because we're going to be zoomed out. So I'm going to hold down Shift to resize this. And bring it right around right there, and then hit Enter to place it. Now I want to erase the edges, so I'm going to, well, actually I'm going to make it a little bit bigger before I do that. There we go. So I'm going to go right over here to the edge, and I'm going to right click and rasterize. And then I'm just going to get my eraser, and I'm going to make it pretty see-through right up here with the opacity, so pretty low. And then I'm going to go along the edges and erase all of the straight edges first, so that there's no picture, no part of the waterfall over the brush sides. So you just keep clicking all the way up until that straight line is gone. And you're going to do that along this side, along the bottom, along this side and the top, and then you're going to also erase the sky area right here. I'm going to go do that and I'll be right back. Okay, so I've erased my background and I'm going to bring this down a little bit. And the next thing that we're going to do is bring in the rocks. So go back over to your source files, click and drag them over, and they are going to go behind the waterfall. So I'm going to go ahead and click and drag this. Oops, looks like I can't yet. I'm going to hit enter, and then I'm going to click and drag it behind the waterfall and arrange it. I think I want it like this. And I think I might want to even, there we go. Just like that. And just like our waterfall, we are going to erase all the edges of the rocks. So on your rock image, right click, rasterize, go get your eraser, and up here you're going to erase all this. So let's go ahead and bring our eraser all the way up so we don't have to click forever. And then we're going to bring that down, and I'm going to make my brush smaller so that I can get rid of the sky without erasing my rocks. And then I'm going to go back here and erase the edges. And when you do this, just put the edge of your brush on your whatever you're erasing. You don't want to put the whole thing there. You just want the edge. And you can kind of play with how see-through it is. It doesn't have to be all the way down in the 20s. You just want to make sure you don't erase too much of the picture. So here I'm just clicking to make it fade in. And I try and get it as much off the side of the bottle as possible. So there. So now we have our waterfall, and then we have our rocks behind that. And next we're going to bring in our city. So go back to your source files, click and drag your city over. And this one's quite a bit bigger, so we're going to make it smaller. And it goes behind the rocks. And I think I'm going to flip this one. So I'm going to go to Edit. Oops, I need to hit Enter first. Edit, Transform, and then Flip Horizontal, because I want the big buildings on that side. And then Shift, and resize it. And then put your city behind your rocks. And there's your city. And see how there's a little bit of glowing white? We don't want that. So I'm going to go back to my rocks and get my brush and make sure I erase all of that glowing white so it doesn't give away that there was a sky there before. There we go. So that looks better. Now I'm going to bring my city down just a little bit, and I'm just going to make it bigger so that it goes all behind the rocks. And then I'm going to right click, rasterize that layer, and go again with my eraser. And I'm going to make it pretty high at first so I can really just delete a lot of this. And just follow the edge of the bottle. Turn down my opacity and come up here and get rid of this edge. And then I'm going to bring the opacity down a little bit more and go over my clouds even more. And by doing that, you'll kind of gradually fade it to where it looks like it fades into the bottle. So there we have our waterfall, our rocks, and our city. Now we're ready to bring our road in. So we go back to our source files, click and drag our road, go ahead and hit enter, and we need to delete this background. So I'm going to click and drag it up to the top so we can see all of it. right click, rasterize, and this one's nice and easy. We go right over here to our selection tools, and if you press W, it will select where your magic wand is. Now right now I'm on a different tool, so if I click and hold it down, I can get my magic wand. Then I'm going to click and press the delete key, click, delete, click, and delete. Now to get rid of the marching lines, what I call them, or your selection, you're going to hold down Control and D, and now you have your road that's cut out. Now there's a little bit of a line right there, so I'm going to go clean that up with my eraser real quick. And for this road, we need to make it look like it is bending around the bottle. So I'm going to put it right about right there, and then I'm going to use my eraser to manipulate this. We don't want the fuzzy eraser, we want the actual eraser, and we're going to come over here, and you're just going to give this edge a little bit of a curve. And use the edge of your eraser and move this so it gets closer. And if you look, I have the edge of the road right to the bottle, so it makes it look like it wraps a little bit better. And I can kind of clean this up a little bit better, but there you go. And now we're going to wrap around here. So this part of the road was cut off, so I'm just going to round those corners off a little bit, and then I'm going to erase this part so it doesn't look like it's going that way, but so that it'll look like it's going around the bottle again. Now I need to make this a little bit smaller. There. I'm going to Control plus and get my eraser again. Oops. There you go. And there you are. It kind of looks like it's going around the bottle now. Now we'll put a traffic light on both sides of this. So back to our source files and find the traffic light. I wasn't as nice, I didn't cut this one out for you, but it's pretty easy. You're going to right click and rasterize, and for this I use my polygonal lasso. It's the third one down, and if you click and drag, you're going to click to set a point, and then you just click and follow the light. Now I like to just do a little bit at a time, so I'll come right here, and then I just click out to the side and go back to the beginning, and you'll see that little circle pop up. Click and press delete, and then I just keep doing that all the way around. Now this traffic light right now is pretty big, and it's going to be super small when it gets into our photo comp, so we don't need to be very good at cutting this out. So I'm just going to go super fast. Do not use your magic wand. It won't work as fast, and you'll have to clean up a whole bunch. Just get your selection tool here, your lasso, and just click and cut that guy out. Now every time I want it to stick somewhere, I'm clicking, and it will stick where I want it to go. Then click, click, click. The biggest thing I would tell you is always remember where you started, because I can't tell you how many times I've forgotten, and that is super annoying when you have to start over because you can't figure out where you started. There we go. Out and around. Make a circle and press delete. Okay, so now we have our traffic light, and here you're going to see what I was talking about. You're going to make this super small. Oops, look, I forgot the middle of the light. Let's do that real quick. Probably wouldn't be able to tell, but it bothers me. Delete. Okay, so here you're going to see just how small it's going to be. So see, you can't see any details, so kind of a sloppy cut is perfectly fine. Now we have that one. We are going to right click on the layer and duplicate and get our move tool and just move that over to the other side as well. And and make it look like it's more on the road, not floating in the air. And so now you have your 2 stoplights. And now it's time for our cars. So go back to your source files and pick out the car, blue car. And I was nicer on this one. I did cut it out for you. So we're going to right click and rasterize so that we can change these colors. Now we don't want all of the cars to be blue, so we are going to go ahead and I'm going to duplicate this first 2 times so that we have 3 cars. So right click, duplicate. So you have 3 different car layers, and then I'll turn the eyes off so we can't see them. So off, off, and here's my first blue car. We are going to hit Control U to get the hue and saturation. And at this point, you can change the color to whatever you like. It doesn't matter. You just move the hue around, and it will change car colors. There's a nice little fuchsia. So there's one of them. Turn the eye back on the next one. Control U. Make sure you are on that layer. Okay, that's the biggest problem. Make sure you're on that layer. And then turquoise. Move that guy. Turn the eye on this layer and click on it so you're on that layer. Control U. And I can't. There we go. Like I said, it doesn't matter, but just whatever colors you want. So now we're going to resize them. So I'll hit Shift and go down to my first blue car, and then I'm going to hold down Shift so that they don't get too big or too little. And when I have them about the right size, I'll let go and then hit Enter. And you're going to put your cars on the road, and you'll want to come to the corner where the transform controls are and rotate them so it doesn't look like they're gonna fall off, and put them on the right side of the road. Oops. There we go. Crazy driver in the middle of the road. And if we wanted to, we could click on this last one, do edit, transform, and then flip horizontal, and he could be going the other way. And then rotate him so he's really on the road. And there you have your cars. Next, we're going to add some fish and a fish and a shark down here to the bottom. First, let's make a new layer and put it up at the top. And we need to make it look like there is more water right here. So what we're going to do is go to our waterfall image and go to your clone stamp, which is this guy right here. Make your brush bigger and make it fuzzy. And then you're going to hold down Alt and click and go up to your new layer and click and drag, and it will add water to the bottom of your bottle. Every now and then you will have to go back to your waterfall, click to sample it again, and then go back up and just fill that bottle in. Go back down. Click on that again, and back up. Click. Click on it. And so you just keep finding the water, click, and clicking until it's all filled in. So it looks like we have a whole bunch of water there. So now we have water for our fish and our shark to be in. So we'll go back to our source files, and first we'll pick the fish and hit enter and put them on top of all those roads and cars. Right click and rasterize, and then nice and easy with your magic wand, click and delete. Control D to get rid of those. And now we want 3 separate fish. So we're going to go to our rectangular marquee, and we'll click and drag around the first fish, right click, layer via cut. Now we go back over here to our layers, back to fish, click and drag around our second fish, right click, layer via cut. Now all of your fish are in separate layers. And we're going to put these guys up here. They're going to be floating fish. And we'll work with this one first. We're going to zoom in. He needs to be quite a bit smaller. And it's going to get all pixelated, but that's okay. Hit enter. And then kind of rotate him a little bit so it looks like he's jumping out of the water. And then we're going to bring the shark in. So back to your source files, go get your shark, press enter. Now this one's going to be a little bit harder because it's all the same color. Before we try it, let's rasterize, right click and rasterize, and let's just try the magic wand. See how it's going to let go of his, or it's going to delete his belly right there. So let's do Control D, and I'm going to get my eraser, make it smaller, and just erase. Now again, he's going to be super small, so it's not that big of a deal. Now I'm going to click and delete, and so there's most of it, and then click and delete, and here it wants that, so I'm going to deselect, and I'm going to get my eraser again, and what I'm doing is I'm deleting the area that it wants to take away. You can also, if you want to, right click and just make your eraser bigger and just erase it. You don't have to be fancy all the time. So here's a pretty bad cutout of the shark, but that's okay because he's going to be super small here in a second. I like to call this guy Bruce. Bruce. Okay, so I'm going to take my shark, make him super small, and then he goes right there. So now you have your shark and you have your fish. And the next thing that you're going to do is make some bubbles of some floating fish. So what we'll do is go up here to your rectangular marquee and actually pick the elliptical marquee. So elliptical marquee, create a new layer, and then if you hold down shift, it will let you do a nice perfect circle, and then you're going to fill that with a certain color. So come right down here to where mine's pink, and you're going to highlight this, and you're going to fill that with 63 BDF1, that blue color. So go get your paint bucket and paint that with that color. Now we're going to do what's called a pattern overlay, and we have to install our patterns first. Your patterns are with your paint bucket. If you go right up here to the top where it says foreground, click down and select pattern, and it has this really funny bubble pattern. And we're going to go over here and go load patterns, and in your source files you should have a WebTreats Deep Water Blues. Double click on that, and then I always pick this one right here, and then you can click and fill that with that water. Now it's a little bit strong, so I'm going to go over to my opacity and make it just a little bit see-through, and then do Control D, and so you have a circle that's filled with water. Now come right over here and double click on your layer, and we are going to do an outer glow. So click on outer glow and then click on the word. On blend mode, you're going to keep it on screen. Your opacity is going to be 75%, and this is going to be a blue color. So click on the color and come over here and just click on the blue and hit OK. Softer, 0550, everything else looks okay, so just go ahead and hit OK. Now you want two of these, so I'm going to click and drag to duplicate it, and I'll put another one up here. And we want our fish to be floating around in these guys. So let's take our fish and put them up at the top. And we're going to do two. Oh, look, he has a little white tail. So I'm going to delete that first. Hold down Shift and make these guys smaller. And then I want to flip him, so I'm going to go Edit, Transform, and Flip Horizontal. So here we have our two fish floating around, and we can click and drag this down to duplicate these guys. Click on him, drag him down right over here. And there are our floating fish. So now we have all of our background, our road with our cars, all the fish and all the sharks, including our... Okay, so next we are going to take the sky away and make it look like it is a galaxy or a night sky. So there's two different things that you can do. One, I think, is easier, and that is go find a galaxy sky to use. So go to Google and find a galaxy sky. I'm going to do that and I'll be right back. So I went and found a sky. Now I'm just going to Control V and paste it in here and click and drag to make it bigger. And so there's my sky. Now I want it to be behind my bottle and behind my rainbow. So I'm going to bring it all the way down here. And what we want is for this to blend in. But first, I think it needs to come down a little bit more. So we're going to take this clone stamp, like I showed you earlier, and I'm going to make it bigger. And I'm going to hit Alt to copy this. And I'm going to click and get rid of that line and just bring my galaxy down a little bit more. And I just keep going over to get rid of the line. And I need to Alt to resample it. Okay, now I'm going to go down to 20% and do the same thing again to give it a gradual lead in. So there, we go back down, Alt. And so now we have our galaxy, and you can leave it like that, or you can go to your brushes and pick your brush and go over and load brushes. And in your source files, you should have a brush. I have moon and stars and star brushes, so I'm going to double click and go down to the bottom. Here's a moon. And I'm going to make a new layer all the way at the top. And I'm going to make my moon gray. And so there's my moon. And then I can load my stars, or I can use these stars, but I really think I'm pretty good. So that's one way you can add your sky in your galaxy, or you can come back down and delete all that and make a new layer and paint it black, and at the top it's going to be completely black. So go to 100% and we'll make it completely black. Then you'll go get a soft brush and you'll make it 75, 70-ish, and you'll cover up that edge that you just made. And then you'll make it maybe 30 and come back down. And then maybe 15, or I have it on 8. That's probably a little bit too little. But so there you go. And then you can go back to your moon brushes and do the same thing. I'm going to get a new layer. And put your moon on there, and then you can put your stars. Probably going to do yellow. Do some white. But there you go. You are done, and you can put your watermark and save that. and turn it in.